What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith, and your Golden State Warriors just got great news. I'd argue fantastic news. And that news is that I think that they can compete with some of the NBA's best after getting a statement 118-112 victory over the reigning champion Boston Celtics. Man, what a whirlwind of a game this was. Warriors play sloppy coming out in the TD Garden. Raucous crowd for the Boston Celtics fans. They come out down 14-3, turning the ball over, not hitting shots. Boston is converting on their opportunities early, and next thing you know, Golden State just keeps the wheels churning. They claw their way back. It's how they respond by going down 14-3. It's how they respond after being up 51-40 at the half and then squandering that lead and squandering it into a deficit of 8 points. It's how they respond after something like that, and it's how they respond in the final 4 minutes of the basketball game. The NBA designates the last 5 minutes of a 5-point game, or less, of course, as clutch time. The Golden State Warriors, over the last 4 minutes of today's game, where it was very much crunch time, very much a clutch situation, did not miss a shot attempt. They were absolutely phenomenal down the stretch, and much of that is thanks to Stephen Curry and the leadership that he provides and the calming nature that he gives the rest of the players on the floor for Golden State when he's out there. It's for guys like Draymond Green. It's for guys like Kevon Looney. The veterans on this team made plays when it counted, and I can't wait to talk even more about the output that we saw from Golden State against Boston today. But first, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We gained about 200 subs in the watch party we had for the Warriors-Celtics game. National TV, national audience, and we had a phenomenal time here at Warriors Today. We're bringing you Golden State Warriors coverage like nobody else on YouTube all season long. So lock us in as your number one source, your go-to spot for Warriors news and rumors all season long. YouTube.com/WarriorsTV. We're trying to do another watch party soon, but we can't do it unless you guys subscribe. So hit that sub button, and we'll get on with the rest of the Warriors' great news. And that great news is that Stephen Curry is back, baby. Unbelievable performance from number 30. And this is kind of where I want to start things, right? This is kind of where my main idea is being drawn of. For the fact that the Warriors can contend with the best teams in the NBA is because they have this man right here. Number 30, Wardell Stephen Curry. I mean, this man took over in the fourth quarter. We were talking early in the game where Stephen Curry wasn't necessarily producing. He was getting blitzed by the Celtics. He was getting double teamed when the Warriors would run ball screen actions. And he just wasn't finding the ball in the basket. He wasn't even really attempting too many shots. When his opportunities came about, he would take them. When he got a mismatch on a guy like Neemias Queta, he would take that mismatch, take him off the dribble, or hit a step back three. And that was kind of just the flow of how things were going. Stephen Curry himself, the man in the arena, the golden boy for Golden State Warriors basketball, was playing within the flow of the offense. And what a message to send to the rest of your teammates by operating in that regard. And then when it came time for him to take over in the fourth quarter, he did just that, hitting triple after layup, getting to the free throw line. He was doing it all for Golden State. He was rebounding the basketball for Golden State when it mattered. I think he had a nice defensive possession on a post-up Al Horford, who is, I think, at least 7 inches taller than the man. Stephen Curry played like his life depended on it tonight. He gets up for games against the Boston Celtics. We know the history between Golden State and Boston. We know the legacy that Stephen Curry has built off of a victory over the Boston Celtics in the past. He decided to get up for this game big time tonight. 9 dimes as well. That's kind of what I was going back to earlier about how Steph was not really finding his shot early on in the game. It was because he was finding his teammates, making the job easier for them. And one of those teammates who I really have to shout out once again, of course, because what's a Warriors Today video without giving our props to our guy, Buddy Hield. He absolutely lit it up again tonight in that middle portion of the game where Golden State needed to build a lead and take advantage of the lack of production that the Boston Celtics were having beyond the three-point line. Buddy Hield was there to step up again. Draymond Green, you were not necessarily my favorite player heading into the fourth quarter of this ball game. You were not shooting the ball very efficiently. Started the game 1 for 5 from the field. Finished the game 1 for 3, I guess, which is fine. But it was the defense. It was the rebounding. It was the switchability. It was the facilitation that Draymond Green was bringing you in a game where you didn't have Brandin Podziemski. You don't have DeAnthony Melton. Quick injury update. Both of those players will be reevaluated for Friday's matchup. Podziemski was out with the illness. I bet he plays on Friday. And then DeAnthony Melton got back with some 3-on-3 work today and it looks like he'll be reevaluated for Friday's matchup as well. But Draymond was absolutely phenomenal tonight. You know who else was phenomenal tonight? Some of the guys that we don't really talk about too much for Golden State being total difference makers. Gary Payton II, shout out to him. Stick him on Peyton Pritchard. Stick him on Derek White. Stick him on Drew Holiday. It does not matter. Gary Payton was everywhere tonight, and he was always available, always cutting to the rim, always maximizing the output that he can have on the offensive end of the floor. Shout out to GP2. I am so fired up about this team. My number one takeaway from this game is the fact that Golden State can hang with the big dogs now. I understand Boston didn't have Jaylen Brown, but Golden State didn't have Podziemski or Melton either. I'm not saying that's a 2-to-1 or a 1-to-1 comparison of either one of those three talents. But, man, I was absolutely impressed with what we saw from Golden State tonight from everybody. And that's why we're going to basically talk about everybody through the duration of this video. Because at the end of the day, it's strength in numbers for Golden State all over again. They are as deep as a team can get in today's NBA. And, man, I am so optimistic moving forward about the future of this Golden State team as far as this season goes and beyond. Because Buddy Hield, you got him for 2 more seasons after this. Slow-mo, you got him for 2 more seasons after this. We'll talk more about Kyle Anderson and the spark that he gave to Golden State on the back half of today's show. But give me your number one takeaway from the game against the Boston Celtics tonight. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. We're going to get into more about this game and what it means for Golden State long-term. But first, I got to give a huge shout-out to today's sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform with over 10 million active members. And you guys can get started with an extra free $50 in your account on Prize Picks if you use our promo code CLNS and place a $5 entry. You might be asking me, how do you place a $5 entry? How do you place an entry at all on Prize Picks? It's super simple. You just pick from their wide array of stat categories and pick a lineup of 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their stat projections, whether it's rebounds in basketball, fantasy points in football, goals in hockey. So many options to choose from on Prize Picks. They even have season-long projections when the major sports haven't even started yet. Here's what I had before the basketball season kicked off. Stephen Curry, more than 26.5 points per game. He got past that number tonight. Stephen Curry, 27 points. Good job. Zachary Rizachet, less than 10.3 points per game. Hasn't really played too much for Atlanta. I think that's going to stick hard. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the man for OKC. Give me more than 30.5 points per game out of SGA. You can take my picks. You can fade my picks. Make sure you go and do it at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use that promo code CLNS, and you'll get $50 for free when you place a $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Kyle Anderson. If I may channel my inner Dwayne The Rock Johnson here, finally, Kyle Anderson has stepped up and stuffed the stat sheet for your Golden State Warriors. I said before the game, Kyle Anderson just hasn't been putting up the numbers, man. I understand his value to the team as far as somebody who can work out of the high post and kick to open shooters on the wings and in the corners, and obviously make that occasional push shot when the defense is being generous and giving it to you. But Kyle Anderson, especially beyond the three-point line, was abysmal to start the season. He was 0 for a while. I mean, I think he missed his first 9 or 10 attempts from the field to start the season. But boy, did he step up tonight. When the Boston Celtics looked like they could have taken this game and ran away with it like they did back in March, Kyle Anderson comes in the game and says, hold my beer. Corner 3. Chikum. Wing 3. Chikum. Back-to-back possessions for Golden State. Interesting. So what is Kyle Anderson going to do? What is Kyle Anderson known for? Not the heat check, but he says, screw it. I'm stepping up in transition, dribble, down the floor, step into 1, 3, good! Kyle Anderson was the spark that really ignited the Warriors' three-point barrage tonight. I mean, thank the Lord for slow-mo. If we don't have Kyle Anderson in this ballgame, we don't win. And I wholeheartedly believe that. He may have shot 3 of 9 from the field, but that spurt that he gave, 3 straight possessions to put 9 points up for Golden State, cannot be understated. What could also not be understated is Golden State's lack of size and the lack of Trey Jackson-Davis' significant playing time in this game kind of signaled that. Boston ran a lineup where this fine fella, Neemias Queta, had his way in the painted area for Boston. 14 points, 8 boards for Queta. And they didn't really have an answer for him, to be quite honest with you guys. They really didn't have much of an answer. Down low for Nemi Escada. Al Horford had a good game for them, especially on the glass as well. So Golden State was definitely at a disadvantage inside the painted area tonight, but they were able to recoup that deficiency beyond the arc. And I know that we've been talking about the math problem for Golden State, how Boston has set in stone this new mantra of get as many threes as you can get up because you're going to hit enough to win the ball game. Well, they got up 54 tonight. That's more than their season average. They hit 19, 35% from the field. Guess what you're not going to do? Guess what you're not going to win? Games when you shoot 35% from three. Now, on the other hand, Golden State, not for a lack of shooting the pill, they put up 34 of them, but they hit 14. They were selective with their three-point shots. They were getting out in transition. That's a way that you can kind of combat the three-point barrage, is getting super quick buckets out in transition and having the offense have to respond back on the other end. Sometimes that rushes them into shots. I think the Golden State Warriors rushed the Boston Celtics into a lot of bad shots today. I think that they had an incredible game plan defensively, blitzing their ball handlers out past half court so they could have to make these long skip passes and would have to float certain balls. And Golden State would be able to jump those passing lanes and get out in transition. That's how Golden State really ignited things on the defensive end today. And credit to Steve Kerr for employing that game plan. Sending two bodies at the Boston Celtics ball handler out near half court was phenomenal. Boston eventually adjusted to it, but it affected them enough and took them out of their rhythm enough for Golden State to be in control of this ball game. It didn't ever really feel like Golden State was going to lose in that second half. Maybe when Boston made that big run and went up 8 points, but it really never felt like the Warriors were going to let this one slip by. And at the end of the day, what does this Golden State Warriors team come down to? As I do got to give a shout out to Andrew Wiggins. He was not great on the free throw line end of things, but what a job he did defensively on Jason Tatum. Channeled that NBA Finals version of Andrew Wiggins that we saw 2 years ago. So I got to clap it up for Wiggs. He wasn't incredibly efficient, couldn't hit a three to save his life, but he was great defensively and he made the right plays and knocked down the key free throws when it mattered, even though he missed a couple early on in the game. But like I mentioned, what does everything the Golden State Warriors do boil down to? This man right here, Stephen Curry. There were stretches during this game where the Warriors looked abysmal. They looked awful. And Steph pulled them out of the weeds when the time was necessary. He pulled them to this win. He dragged the Golden State Warriors to this win, hitting big-time threes over the outstretched arms of defenders, somehow finding his way wide open for certain threes, getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line. You could see the clear difference in how the offense ran, especially when missing Podziemski and Melton. I can't believe Steph even sat for a second tonight because Golden State didn't have the necessary ball handlers. They didn't have threats that Boston could collapse in on that would free up other players on the floor for Golden State. When Steph Curry gets back on the floor, that changes dramatically. It's a complete 180 when Stephen Curry is out on the floor. And, you know, if we're just going to talk about more great news for Golden State, it's great news that Stephen Curry is back and healthy and he's been able to put up massive numbers, massive stat lines like this and help the Warriors cruise to more wins as they are 7-1 now. That's insane for me to think about, man. That is truly, truly bonkers. And I cannot wait for the next game the Golden State Warriors play on Friday against one of the Eastern Conference's elite so far this season, the Cleveland Cavaliers. That'll do it for today's edition of Golden State Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. The Warriors keep the great news rolling day in and day out. Every win means great news for Golden State Warriors and the Golden State Warriors fans, and we'll be covering each and every one of those wins right here on the channel, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. We'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go Dubs. We got the dub!